Good evening, everyone. I am Paoni from SBI YFI team, and I manage marketing and communications for SBI YFI. And with me, I have Alex. He heads operations for SBI YFI team, and together we are doing this live to make you understand the SBI YFI applications process. I hope everyone is doing good, and we will start with the presentation in a few seconds. I'm just waiting for more people to join. So let's begin with what we will cover today in our live session. So first we'll talk about SBI Youth for India Fellowship Program and the reason why we exist and what we have to offer to the youth of India. Then we'll talk about our partner NGOs and the thematic areas where our fellows work. And then we'll come to the what is the impact of the program so far. Today, this year, we are in the 10th year of the program and we'll be onboarding the 10th batch of fellows. So that is quite exciting year for us. Next, we'll go to who should apply and then how to apply, which is where we will be explaining you the entire process step by step so that there's no problem in you applying for it. Then we'll go on to explain the program cycle. Like once you are selected, how the program goes for the 13 months, we'll be explaining you that. And then how during the program our entire system supports you. So we'll be talking about that. And then we will come to what you should expect post the fellowship. What are the kind of opportunities that you can look at post the fellowship? So we'll be talking about that. So shall we start? So, coming to SBI Youth for India Fellowship Program. So, our program was launched in 1st March 2011 and it was initiated by State Bank of India and it was inaugurated by then ex-President of India, Honorable Shri APJ Abdul Kalam ji. And program has a vision that one day every village has the necessary capacities to develop themselves sustainably. And today we uphold this with a Gandhian philosophy that the spirit of India still truly lies in the villages of India. And we truly uphold the spirit. Our mission with the program is to create a movement of passionate and sincere change makers who can commit to the cause of bridging rural and urban gap. So, SBI Youth for India is the flagship program of SBI Foundation, and it's a 13 months long fellowship that enables youth to join hands with rural communities to work on development projects in partnership with reputed grassroots NGOs. And we are proud to tell you that we have about 450 plus YFI alumni and we work with 14 partner NGOs. And these 14 partner NGOs have about 20 years of experience working in the grassroots. And post the fellowship, our data says that there are about 70% of alumni who join the social sector and who keep on, contributing to the social sector. Doesn't matter which domain or which profession you come from, but fellowship does that's the trick that you feel like joining the social sector and contributing more. We have about 150 plus villages that we have reached through our fellows and their initiatives. What is the reason for this program to even, be there? Why are we even here? Why is this fellowship there? So what is the reason that keeps us going? What keeps us there? So these are our main objectives and reason why we exist. So first, we feel there's a huge urban-rural divide that needs to be bridged. And to bridge this urban-rural divide, We need uniform development of our nation, and we plan to do this through our program. We also plan and also try to address region specific development disparities that exist. There are a lot of disparities. You see how the literacy rate in Kerala is different from a literacy rate in Odisha to, there are different kind of disparities that exist. So through our program we try to address region specific disparities through a very bottom up approach. Next, to provide driven and committed urban Indian youth with an opportunity to touch lives and create positive change at the grassroots level in rural India. We feel urban youth has the potential to go to these places, go to remote areas, and bring positive change in the lives of people who still deserve basic needs that are not fulfilled yet. So we believe that youth has the potential to go and bring positive change in these areas. Next objective is to provide NGOs working on development projects in rural India with educated and skilled human resources who can catalyze rural development. So we have 14 NGOs, and our youth, our fellows, they go there as a resource person to help them in their projects and make it even better by every year bringing new initiatives and making it better. Next objective is to provide a forum for SBI YFI alumni to share ideas and contribute to rural development throughout their professional life and contribute to policy level changes. So our alumni who went on to open their own organizations, starting their own ventures, and also bringing new ideas to wherever they are going. And the insights that you get from the fellowship, they are contributing and bringing those insights to the table wherever they are. And the journey truly helps them in their professional life. And we have alumni who have even reached to a policy level. They have joined government and they have joined many think tanks, and they are making policy level changes now. What does this program offer to you? So SBI Youth for India Fellowship is offered to India's brightest young minds as an opportunity to go live and work with rural communities for a year and help them with their rural development challenges. The fellowship offers young leaders an opportunity to experience a transformative journey through a process of unlearning and understanding the challenges of rural India. They collaborate with NGO partners and local communities and then finally build and sustain grassroots level initiatives. Uh, I'm also a fellow. I was 2020-21 fellow, and I would like to share, some examples from my fellowship journey. So when you talk about unlearning, I remember one instance from a class that I was taking for few kids, and it was an English class and it was a sentence formation class, and I'd asked kids to, come up with sentences. And one kid said, "I cut trees every day," and my mind suddenly just went to tell him that this is wrong. You can't. Next moment, I realized that if this kid doesn't go and cut trees today and take the firewood home, he won't get food because it's fuel wood for him. It's fuel wood for his family, and they can't cook without it. They won't get their meal without it. So that unlearning happened in that moment. And there are a lot of these instances that you will only realize when you actually go to grassroots. Similarly, in terms of collaboration, when you go to a place where you don't even know the culture, you don't know the language, and you try to collaborate with them, the collaboration only comes when you actually get into their shoes. You try to learn their language. You try to, get involved with their daily practices, their festivals, and then only you actually collaborate with them when they kind of see you as one of them. So it's never, it's about communion, it's about community living, and this journey will definitely teach you that. In cities where we live in silos, in village everyone will know you, and the entire village will become your family. It's also important to build each other in this journey. So it's not about building a project, just about building a project and building something with the community. It's about building each other. Sometimes you have to build their capacities and they will build your capacity. So I was working on a livelihood project, and I learned to do mushroom cultivation, beekeeping, soap making, and all these things were taught by the community to me. Otherwise I would have never learned it the way they taught me. And maybe what I could do was maybe build their confidence enough that they can also be women entrepreneurs. They could also be somebody who can go and be there, because when they see that, okay, yes, empowered women are coming to they see you as somebody, as they would want to look up to, or they would see their children to be somebody like you. So you go, you get inspiration from them, and you also sometimes inspire them in many different ways. Coming to the sustainability of projects, the sustainability only comes in my livelihood project experience when they actually see that, yeah, I am, earning a bit more than I used to. When they see that change happening, when they see that, okay, people are appreciating their products, people are coming to buy them, people are seeing them as, business women, as entrepreneurs, they will eventually, the projects will sustain, their business will sustain. And that's how livelihood works. So for me, it has been a very life changing experience that I will always cherish, and I hope the people who want to join also get to experience it. Coming to our 14 partners, so these partner NGOs, we are in, like, they work in 15 states, and they have about 20 years of experience, and they all specialized in different domain areas. So like rural livelihood, some specialize in social entrepreneurship, some specialize in health, some work on women empowerment, some work on alternate energy. So each NGO has their own strengths, and with them you will build amazing projects that will sustain. Coming to 12 thematic program areas. So these are our 12 broad thematic areas where our fellows usually pick one of them and they work on a project. So the project selection is usually done on the basis of community's need, and fellows' interest and skill set, and partner NGO's vision. So when you go there in the initial 2 months, you would experience the community. You would do research. You would do a survey. You would try to understand. You would interview people. You would do a lot of study and understand what actual community need is. Sometimes what we see from outside and what actually is are very two different things. So that happens when you actually understand community's need. Then comes fellows interest and skill set. So because we have fellows who come from very different backgrounds, and they have their own skill set and interests that they come with. So it's important for us as a team also to match those interests and find them the actual project that they would want to work on. So our team also constantly puts efforts to make these projects better. And partner NGO also has their own specialization, so they also always mentor them, and they have their own vision, and together fellows and NGOs work together to make good projects. So our thematic program areas align with various UN Sustainable Development Goals. So there are about 10 to 12 UN SDGs that our programs align with, and we are really proud to say that yes, we are kind of working towards those goals through our different thematic areas. Coming to the impact of the program, we are in the 10th year of the fellowship, and we already have about 35 alumni who have founded or initiated a program, enterprise, non-profit of their own. And we have over 45 alumni who continue to work in the same NGOs. And since 2011, there are about like 26 lakhs that has been raised through crowdfunding, and this has been raised for the community by our fellows. About 70% of fellows continue to work in the social sector, which is a very good number. And this fellowship is actually helping people to understand social sector better, and contribute and join social sector more. We have about like 1 lakh's life that we have impacted through the fellowship. Now we would come to the selection process or application process. So everything will be explained by Alex to you in detail now. I would like to welcome Alex to go ahead with the application process.
Thank you, Paoni, and thank you for covering the various aspects about the fellowship. And as we move further towards the application process, I would also like to let the audience know that if there are any questions regarding the application process which you would like us to cover in this session, you can do so by sharing your questions on the comment section. So our team is closely monitoring your questions, and hopefully during the course of this session, we will also be covering some of your queries. So when we talk about the specific eligibility criteria for this fellowship, so we can break this down into three aspects. So first one being the age. So anyone who is between the ages of 21 until 32 during the program's commencement is eligible to apply for the fellowship. So this essentially means that you should not have exceeded the age of 32, or you should have attained the age of 21 when you're commencing the program. And the age range is something that is also mentioned on our website. So that's something that you can go through even after this session. And specifically, the second criteria is the nationality. So we do invite candidates who have their citizenship as Indian or that of overseas citizen of India. So you could either be an Indian citizen or an OCI to participate in the application process. And this year we have also increased the scope to invite candidates from both Bhutan as well as Nepal. So if you have a citizenship of either Bhutan or Nepal, you're also welcome to apply for the fellowship this year. And when we talk about the third criterion, which is of qualification, so the only specific criterion here is that you have to have a bachelor's degree, an undergraduate degree from any discipline or stream. And why we do this is to also promote and invite candidates from diverse streams. So you could have pursued your undergraduate, let's say, in business management, or in health and medicine, or even in engineering, and you are very much eligible to apply for this fellowship. So briefly summarizing, so there are three criterion. One is the age, so you have to be between 21 to 32. And in terms of nationality, we invite candidates from both Indian or OCI, as well as candidates from Bhutan and Nepal. And the third one being the qualification. So the basic minimum qualification is that you have to have an undergraduate bachelor's degree from any discipline or stream. So this is on the eligibility criteria. And as we move on, you will also come across the other aspects of the application process. So in total, we can break this entire application process into three stages. So the first stage is called the preliminary application, followed by the online assessment, which forms the second stage. And the third and the final stage is known as the personality assessment and interview. So the third and the final stage can be broken down into two parts. So the first part being the personality assessment, and the final step being the virtual interview process. So when we look at the stage one in detail as we move on, you will notice that with regards to the timelines, the last day to apply for stage one, the preliminary application, is 2nd of May 2022. So in case if you are yet to fill in your application, and if you're contemplating on applying for this fellowship, please be mindful that the last day to apply for this fellowship for this particular batch So, starting with stage one, which is the preliminary application process. So, we touched upon the various application stages. So, just summarizing, there is stage one, which is the preliminary application, the second one being the online assessment, and the third stage being the virtual interview and personality assessment stage. So, when we talk about stage one, which is the preliminary application, this is essentially a brief process where we capture information specific to the eligibility criteria. So, to understand whether you're eligible to apply for the fellowship is something that is reviewed in stage one. And once you're found to be fit to pursue your application process for the fellowship, is when we move on to the next stage, which is the online assessment stage. So, the online assessment stage is an extensive process where we capture various aspects pertaining to your candidature. So, some of them include understanding your specific motivation and aspiration behind wanting to pursue the fellowship. And there are also information particular to your academic and professional background, which is also captured in this particular stage. And this stage also offers the scope to our candidates to reflect upon why is it that they intend on pursuing this fellowship. And that is something that is captured through our various essay-based questions, as well as a particular caselet, which helps the candidate to visualize how is it that their fellowship experience is going to be. So you will be put through a real-life caselet, which is inspired from the fellowship, which would have to be answered by the candidate, and that also forms a part of the stage 2 online assessment process. And when we talk about the final stage, which is the personality assessment and interview, and essentially the stage 3 can be broken down into two parts. So first, you're expected to complete the personality assessment test. So this would typically take anywhere between an hour and a half to up to a maximum of 2 hours. And once you're found to be fit to pursue the virtual interview, which forms the last part of the stage 3, uh, uh, so that process will comprise a multi-stakeholder panel, which would be interacting with you to understand whether you are a good fit for the fellowship, and similarly whether the fellowship opportunity is a good fit for your career aspirations. Keeping that in mind, once the virtual interview process is completed, then the candidate will be notified as to whether they have been selected for the fellowship program or not. So essentially, when we look at the overall process, if I were to summarize, there is stage one, the preliminary application, the deadline for which is 2nd of May 2022. And the second is the online assessment, which is a much more detailed and extensive process, followed by stage three, which can again be broken down into two parts. The first one being personality assessment. And once you clear the personality assessment, you're invited for the virtual interview, which is the final step of your application process. And once we complete your application process, you will be notified as to whether you've been selected for the fellowship or not. And this is tentatively expected to happen in the month of June 2022. So this is the overall process for the application process. And as we move on, we will also be covering a few other information. Now that you've understood what the application process entails, what would be equally interesting for you to understand is that how do you go about the 13 months that you're willing to dedicate for this fellowship program. So, like we shared, we commenced the application process in the month of March, and we are expected to conclude the entire application process by the month of June 2022. And once we complete the overall onboarding interview process, the orientation for the candidates will commence in the month of August as well as October. So we commence the batch in two cohorts, the first one being in August, and for those who are unable to join due to exceptional reasons, can also consider joining us in the month of October. And post orientation, the initial few months are dedicated towards the fellow understanding the community that they will be working with. It will be focused on understanding the location where they will be based out of. And once the initial few months are covered, we will be also visiting the locations where our fellows are placed. So there are field visits carried out by the Youth for India team. And once that is covered in the months of December and January, we will be moving on to the review workshop, which is tentatively expected to happen in the months of January and February. So it is in the review workshop where the fellows project is understood in detail. So that is also the first avenue and milestone for the fellow, where their progress is reviewed who will be a part of the review workshop. So once we complete the review workshop, there will be another review during the half checkpoint of your fellowship. And this is expected to happen sometime in the month of April and May. And this is also to understand the progress that the fellow has made, and if there is any need for course correction in the fellows project. And that is also something that's carried out in the second review workshop, followed by we conclude the entire fellowship experience with a valediction ceremony. For those who pursue the fellowship in the month of August, the valediction will happen in September. And for those who join us in the month of October, the valediction is expected to happen in the month of November. So, this is typically the program cycle in which, as a fellow, you will be dedicating 13 months and undergoing these various aspects as part of your fellowship journey. And also touching upon certain mechanisms in place to ensure that you are having a meaningful experience as part of the fellowship. Is I will not be going into the details of each of these aspects, but to briefly touch upon these aspects, the first one being the Youth for India team as well as the partner NGOs. So, to ensure that you are having a meaningful experience during the course of your fellowship, there is a dedicated Youth for India team which will be monitoring the fellow support and management during your entire 13 months of the fellowship. And in addition, there are dedicated resources from our partner NGOs who will also be curating your fellowship experience. And similarly, we also have on board external mentors who will be guiding you with regards to how to go about implementing your project. They will also be working on providing additional perspectives in terms of how you can improve your overall fellowship outcomes and approach. And similarly, we also have a Let's Talk platform, which is an initiative which is focused on the mental well being of our fellows. And similarly, there are a few other initiatives which help our fellows to engage with our alumni as well as our externals. So these are certain initiatives which will also be covered in detail as part of your orientation and onboarding process. So the final aspect that I would like to touch upon is around what after the fellowship, because this is one particular query which a lot of our candidates do have, is that while we dedicate 13 months for the fellowship, but what after that? And here I would like to basically talk about the career trajectories of our 450 plus alumni. So when we talk about the journey that our alumni have had after pursuing the fellowship, over 70% of them continue in the social sector. And if I were to break it down, some of them go on to pursue higher studies or research in premier universities across the world. And then they go on to pursue their careers in the specific domains in which they would like to specialize in. And similarly, we have had at least about 35 of our alumni who've gone on to set up either their own enterprise or non-profit initiatives within the social sector. And similarly, there are other alumni who join existing social sector organization, think tank, and specialized agencies. And this is something that they also pursue after the fellowship. And similarly, there are a few other alumni who are keen on pursuing public policy based or governance based roles. And that also is another avenue which is open to our alumni. And lastly, just as how we were touching upon higher studies, there are certain section of our alumni who are dedicatedly interested in pursuing research as well as academia. And that is also another option that is open to our fellows post the fellowship. So these are some of the possible avenues. And while we would not be able to cover everything that is there to be talked about in terms of the fellowship, we as a team would be available to help understand and clarify your queries during the course of your application process. And you could reach out to our team either on social media or by writing to us on applications at youthforindia.org, and our team will be responding to your queries, be it both with regards to your application or your fellowship process. And from our team side, we also try to curate more information about the fellowship on our website, which is youthforindia.org. And you're also open to applying directly through a dedicated link, which is the register.u4.in link. So these are some of the specific resources through which you can reach out to the team, and we'll be more than happy to clarify and help you throughout the course of your application process. So with this, we would like to basically take a pause on the information that we have shared from our side, and Paoni will be curating the questions that some of you have shared, and we would like to answer those questions.
Yes, Alex. So we have received a lot of questions. So we can start by answering, and I will be asking you questions. You can answer it. Uh, Alex, you are on mute.
Yes, yes, Paoni.
So, how much time does it take to complete the selection process? That's the first question.
Yes. So to answer this question, we started the application process in the month of March, and we're expected to conclude this entire process by June of 2022. So by June is when the candidates will get to understand and know whether they've been selected for the fellowship this year.
There's a question: what will be the benefits of joining the fellowship?
Right. So that's a very interesting question, which a lot of our candidates do have. And when we specifically talk about the benefits, there are multiple approaches that we can take up. So one would be specifically around the design of the fellowship, is such that since we follow an experiential learning methodology, there are certain personal experiences, professional insights that a fellow stands to gain during the course of the fellowship, which also forms an important aspect about what can a candidate stand to gain out of this fellowship program. So, on a personal and professional level, like I shared, it is the experiential learning that enables a candidate to get various kinds of experiences during the fellowship. And in addition, whenever if I were to specifically talk about the benefits, then any particular candidate who intends to explore the social sector, understand the nitty-gritties and intricacies of working in the development space, will get the chance to do that through this fellowship program. And these are some of the specific benefits for which I believe would be relevant for for a major portion of our candidates.
So there's Akansha Verma, and she's asking. She's a 2022 graduate, but due to COVID, her semesters are late. So will she be eligible?
Right. So, Akansha, from our team side, what we would like to share is that if you are able to complete the graduation before the commencement of the program, then you would be eligible to apply and pursue the fellowship this year. So this also happens to be part of our eligibility criteria, which is mentioned on our website as well as our application portal. So in case if you're able to complete your graduation on or before 1st of October, you would be eligible to apply for the fellowship this year. If not, then we would strongly recommend that you consider applying for the fellowship during the upcoming batch.
Next question is: are we going to be paid?
Right. So the fellowship offers a living and sustenance allowance during the course of your fellowship, and the allowance is given primarily to ensure that you're able to sustain in the locations where you're based. So this is not a job opportunity where a compensation or a pay package is offered to our fellows, but essentially what is provided in terms of incentives as well as a stipend is a basic modest amount to ensure that you're able to carry out your fellowship smoothly in the locations where you're based out of.
Uh, Next question is: when can we expect to hear back from YFI regarding the registration and assessment for the first stage?
Right. Yes. So we have been receiving queries on this front, and from our team side, we are consciously ensuring that we share updates with all of our candidates, both on social media channels as well as through email. And from our team side, the approach has always been around ensuring that we give adequate care and attention to each and every application. And as and when we have the status of all the candidates in place for stage one, we will be notifying them on a rolling basis. So, in case if you are yet to hear from the team with regards to the status of your application, we hope to share them in the coming few weeks. So, you can look forward to hearing from us latest by the coming few weeks.
Next question is, what is the procedure for overseas applicants?
Right. So for overseas applicants, it will continue to remain the same. If I were to be a little more specific, currently we are able to host overseas candidates with overseas citizen of India type of citizenship. Unfortunately, we will not be able to onboard candidates who come from other countries at the moment. So the eligibility criteria, as has been mentioned both on our website and application portal, will be able to give some clarity around how to go about applying for this fellowship and whether you are eligible for the program this year. And if in case if you happen to be an OCI citizen, then the process will continue to remain the same. And with regards to specifically for OCI candidates, in case if you don't possess an OCI card, we would recommend that you initiate the process immediately. And further details around applying for the OCI card is something that you can obtain directly through the internet, or you could also reach out to the team through our help desk, and we will be happy to guide you on the same.
There's one question, what should I do if I have a middle name? The application form only asks for first and last names.
Yes. So to answer this particular query, in case if your name has multiple words, then you may choose to use the first name, the first word as your first name, and the other set of words that form a part of your name can be inputted in the last name section. So the last name section will have the scope to uh, capture multiple words. So in case if your name comprises of more than two or three words, then you may use the last name option to input the other set of words in your name.
Thank you for the question, Yaman Sinha. I think this was a question that a lot of people had. Next question is accommodation provided during fellowship?
So during the course of the fellowship, a fellow gets support from the partner NGO in terms of identifying a suitable accommodation in their project location, the expenses for which has to be borne by the fellow themselves. And typically, the expense will be a modest amount when compared to the stipend that is provided. So while I may not be able to give a specific range right now, but once you move to your NGO orientation, you will be given clarity from the local NGO staff in terms of what are all the options that can be possible for your accommodation and stay. But if I were to put it simply, the NGO will be facilitating support in identifying a suitable accommodation or stay in your project location.
Next question we have is from Aarti Singh from Nepal, and she is saying that she has finished her preliminary stage and has completed it, and she wants to know what should she do as preparation for the second stage.
Right. So that's a very interesting question. So from our team side, what we always recommend and endorse is that as a candidate that's applying for this fellowship or any other opportunity for that matter, having a good understanding about what this program stands for and what are all the possible opportunities that I could leverage from this specific fellowship is something that you should be very well aware of. So on this front, what we would recommend is if you could go through our website where there are sections that are covered extensively. And this year we have also introduced a dedicated section called Insights and Blog, where you'll be able to understand and read through the experience of some of our past fellows, which can also give you additional perspectives on this fellowship program. So during the course of your preparation, I would recommend that you go through both our website as well as other social media channels, including our YouTube, to go through the experiences of some of our past fellows. And uh, apart from this, there is no other specific preparation that we would recommend or endorse, because even in terms of how we go about evaluating candidates, there is no certain set criteria in terms of how we go about assessing and also evaluating candidates. So, keeping that in mind, there is no specific preparation that we can advise at this moment. But the only generic preparation that might work in your favor is that if you get the chance to go through our website as well as our YouTube channel in detail, that might offer a better understanding of the fellowship program.
So a lot of people are asking if English is compulsory for the interview or they can or communicate in their mother tongue.
Right. So while English is not mandatory for the selection panel, what we would also like to ensure and check is that if the interview panel is comfortable with a language other than English, then the candidate may proceed with giving their interview in different languages. But in case if the panel is not comfortable with any other language other than English, then we may have no other option but to proceed with English for your interview process.
So there's Danish from Kuwait, and he's asking if he wants to join the program, but his company has a 4 month notice period. So what can he do in such situation if he gets selected for the fellowship?
Right. So that's also a very relevant question, because I do believe that there are few of our working professionals who are also considering joining the program. So for that, what we would recommend is taking into consideration your request is also primarily why the fellowship operates in two cohorts. So those who are unable to join us in the August cohort may consider joining us in the October cohort, and we tend to inform our candidates typically by the month of June or July, which would offer sufficient notice and time for the candidate to prepare their transition from other organizations. So I do believe and hope that Danish would have adequate time in hand if he's given the chance to pursue the program. And the notice period is something that will also be taken into consideration while carrying out our onboarding process.
Suraj Gupta is asking that can he select the program area or will it be assigned to him?
So, with regards to identifying and selecting a domain area or interest of your choice, so there is a certain level of freedom given to the fellow in terms of opting for a thematic area and a focus area of their interest. So, we are mindful about the kind of NGOs that we allocate to our candidates. So, in case if a candidate is interested in pursuing projects around technology, then what we tend to do from the team side is that we allocate the fellow an NGO that can host fellows with interest areas technology. And the specific location where the fellow will be working is decided on a mutual basis, taking into consideration the preferences of the fellow as well as the interests and focus areas of the partner NGO. So, on a mutual basis, the specific location where the candidate will be working will be decided upon.
I think a lot of people also have doubt about recommendations. So I think maybe you can clarify who could be the recommender.
Yes, sure, Paoni. So, with regards to the stage two online assessment process, one section that forms a part of the online assessment is also obtaining recommendations for your fellowship candidature. So, there are two types of recommendations, one being the academic recommender as well as the professional recommender. So, in case if you worked in an organization before, or during your college if you have interned or volunteered somewhere, then you may consider seeking and sourcing your professional recommendation from the person or individual who was overseeing your experience either during your internship or your volunteering experience, or if you have work experience in the past, then it could be your immediate supervisor or your reporting authority. So these are the kind of options through which you can source and obtain your professional recommendation. And when we talk about the second type of recommendation, which is the academic recommendation, then this is something that can be obtained either from the teacher or professor who was very closely associated with you during your academic journey, or it could also be obtained from the head of the department or the dean of the institution, uh, under whom you were also pursuing your fellowship, pursuing your academic journey. So in total, there are two types of recommenders. One being the professional recommender. So this could either be from the organization where you have previously worked, interned, or volunteered, and the academic recommendation being either from the dean, HOD, or the specific professor or teacher under whom you pursued your academic degree. So these are the two types of recommenders that you will have to obtain as part of the overall stage 2 online assessment process.
Just to answer some small questions. So, can I do this fellowship online? No, you can't do it online. You have to physically be there for the entire 13 months duration. And your fellowship location is decided only after the orientation. So, when you wouldn't know the location initially. So, that is decided on the basis of your thematic area. And any other question that I feel is important and should be addressed? Um, do you need job experience or volunteering experience? Alex, do you want to take it?
Yes, yes, Pawan. So while having a job experience and volunteering experience is not mandatory, but in case if you've had exposure to either a volunteering engagement or if you worked in the past, then we would recommend that you explicitly mention that in your application. But to make it very clear, it is not mandatory for you to either have a volunteering experience nor a work experience. So we are also open to inviting candidates who are fresh out of college, and at the same time, we are also hosting candidates who have substantial experience of working in various corporates or various organizations to also form a part of our batch. And keeping the diversity in mind, we do have fellows with over 8 to 10 years of work experience. And at the same time, we also have fellows who are also fresh out of college.
I think we would like to wind it up now and try to close it, but I know a lot of questions are coming. So you can write to us at applications at the rate youthforindia.org, or you can also reach out to us on social media. We also have an Instagram bot that can answer a lot of these queries. So you can reach out to us there, and yeah, we'll be happy to help you out.
Thank you, Paoni. I would like to wish everyone the very best for the application process for this batch. And in case if you have any doubts, please feel free to reach out to our team.
All the best.